Dad's car had barely rolled down the street when the house went quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the refrigerator hum, and the ticking clock feels like a heartbeat you shouldn't be listening to. I was still in the kitchen, pretending to look for something in the fridge I didn't need, when she appeared in the doorway. Barefoot. Hair still damp from her shower. That robe, the soft gray one she wore on weekends, tied just enough to look casual, but not careless. She didn't say anything at first. Just stood there, her hand resting on the doorframe, eyes searching my face like she was about to ask something and thought better of it. "Did you eat?" she finally asked. Her voice was low, careful. "Yeah," I lied, shutting the fridge. "I'm good." She nodded, but didn't move. The silence stretched again, not awkward, just heavy. Like both of us were waiting for someone to interrupt. But no one would. Dad had left hours early for his new job, something about getting a jump on the week. I could smell her perfume even from across the room, faint, familiar. She must have noticed the way my eyes flicked toward her before I caught myself, because she gave a small smile, almost embarrassed. "You look tired," she said softly. I couldn't sleep. Still not used to this place. Maybe. Truth was, I wasn't used to her. She moved past me to make coffee, brushing by close enough that the hem of her robe grazed my arm. I froze. She didn't look back, just reached for a mug from the top shelf, standing on her toes. For a second, I almost stepped forward to help, but I didn't. Her hand trembled slightly when she poured the coffee. Not enough for her to spill, but enough for me to notice. "You don't have to tiptoe around me, you know," she said after a while, stirring the cup absently. "I'm not." "You are." Her tone softened. "It's okay. I'm still getting used to all this too." She leaned against the counter, eyes on the floor. There was something about the way she spoke, like she wanted to sound sure of herself, but couldn't quite get there. When she finally looked up, her eyes caught mine and didn't let go. "You remind me of him when he was your age," she said quietly. "Except you don't hide what you feel." I didn't know what to do with that. My throat went dry. She turned away, but not before I saw the faintest color rise in her cheeks. "You should," she started, then stopped. "What?" She hesitated, her fingers tightening around the mug. Then she set it down, hard enough that the sound made me flinch. "Never mind," she said. "Forget it." I almost did. Almost. But something in her eyes made it impossible. When she walked past me again, she paused, right beside me this time, and placed her hand lightly on my arm. Just long enough to feel the warmth, the pulse under my skin. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. Then she let go and stepped toward the hallway, leaving the scent of coffee and perfume in her wake. I stood there, not moving. Not breathing. The quiet came back, louder than before, until the sound of a door creaked open somewhere down the hall. And then a single text buzzed on my phone screen: "Dad, forgot my laptop. Be there in 5. I looked toward her room. The door was half open. 5 minutes. And I still hadn't decided whether to leave, or go to her. The next morning, the house felt smaller, like every sound had weight. I could hear her in the kitchen again, humming softly, the way she did when she was trying to fill silence. The same robe, hair tied back this time. I hesitated at the bottom of the stairs, unsure if I should act like nothing had happened. Nothing had happened, technically. But she'd said those words, "Don't be afraid," and now they wouldn't leave my head. She noticed me before I could say anything. "Morning," she said, without turning around. Morning. There was no mention of the night before. No glance that lasted too long. Just the rhythmic clink of a spoon in her coffee. Dad left early again, I said, more to fill space than anything. She nodded. He'll be gone most of the week. Conference in Seattle. Right. That explained her quiet, the robe, the absence of makeup. The house had always felt different when he was gone, looser, like it could breathe. I sat at the table, pretending to check something on my phone. She poured a second cup without asking and slid it toward me. Still not sleeping? She asked. Guess not. She gave a faint smile. You never did, even as a kid. Always up late, pacing. It hit me then, how long she'd been around. I was 17 when she married Dad. She wasn't some stranger who just appeared. She'd been there through graduations, breakups, my move back home after college fell apart. Still, it had always felt like there was a thin line between us, something neither of us ever named, but both respected. Until last night. She sat across from me, elbows on the table, watching the steam rise from her cup. I wasn't sure you'd stay here after he remarried, she said softly. Didn't have anywhere else to go. That's not true. Her tone was gentle but certain. You could have gone anywhere. You chose here. I didn't answer. Because she was right, and we both knew it. Her eyes drifted toward the window. You know, your father, he means well. He always has. But he's not easy to be with. I stayed quiet. She rarely talked about him. When she did, it sounded like someone describing a room that used to feel warm but didn't anymore. He's different with you, I said. Maybe. She looked back at me then, eyes sharp, searching. You think it's strange, don't you? That we live in the same house and barely talk. I met her gaze. No. I think it's lonely. The word landed between us, heavier than it should have been. She blinked, then looked away, fingers tracing the rim of her mug. Lonely, she repeated, almost to herself. Outside, wind moved through the trees. Inside, nothing moved. Then, almost without thinking, she reached across the table and brushed a crumb from my sleeve. A small gesture, but her hand lingered just a beat too long. Neither of us spoke. And when she finally pulled back, she smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. Coffee's getting cold, she said. But she didn't get up. Neither did I. The air between us held everything we weren't saying. It started raining by late afternoon. One of those steady, gray rains that blurred everything, sound, thought, time. I was in the living room, half watching a show I wasn't following, when she appeared in the doorway again. Jeans this time, hair loose, no makeup. She looked tired, softer somehow. The internet's down again, she said. You know how to fix it? I nodded and followed her to Dad's office. The desk was cluttered, receipts, a half-drunk glass of whiskey, papers scattered like a map of everything he'd left undone. She stood close while I rebooted the router, her hand resting lightly on the back of my chair. Close enough that I could feel her warmth, smell her shampoo. Dad's not calling? I asked. Not yet. He's probably still at the airport. I typed something just to stay busy. She sighed, quiet but shaky. You ever feel like you're waiting for something that isn't coming? She asked. I turned. Her eyes met mine, too long, too open. I used to, I said. And now? Now I don't know what I'm waiting for. Her hand slipped from the chair to my shoulder, hesitating. You shouldn't look at me like that. I wasn't. Yes, you were. Her voice was barely a whisper. The router beeped. Connection restored. But neither of us moved. She leaned in slightly, her breath brushing my neck. This is wrong, she said, almost to herself. I know. Then why aren't you leaving? I didn't have an answer. Her fingers tightened, then dropped away. She stepped back, eyes darting to the window where rain streaked the glass. Your father loves you, she said suddenly. He tries, even when he doesn't show it. The way she said it, defensive, trembling, made me wonder who she was trying to convince. A car door slammed outside. We both froze. She moved first, brushing past me, voice quick and low. It's probably just a delivery. But it wasn't. Dad's voice carried through the hallway a second later, deeper, familiar. Wi-Fi still down, he called. Her face drained. She took a step back, smoothing her hair, straightening her shirt. I shoved my hands into my pockets to hide how bad they were shaking. He walked in, smiling faintly, tired from travel. Couldn't stand the hotel, he said, dropping his keys on the desk. Flights got cancelled. He looked between us. Everything okay? Fine, she said too quickly. Just fixing the connection. Dad glanced at the screen, then at me. You two make a good team. She laughed, that practiced laugh she used when she wanted to end a conversation. He's good with these things. I'd be lost without him. Our eyes met for half a second. Too short for him to notice. Too long for me to forget. Dad turned away, talking about dinner plans, his voice fading down the hall. She stayed frozen, one hand gripping the edge of the desk, knuckles white. When he called her name again, she exhaled, slow, steady, and whispered without looking up, "This can't happen." But the way she said it sounded more like a memory than a rule. Dinner that night was unbearable. Dad talked about the conference, his voice loud and steady, filling every corner of the room. She nodded, smiled at the right times, poured him more wine. I barely said a word. The rain hadn't stopped. The windows fogged, and the candlelight made everything look softer than it was, like a photo taken seconds before it burns. She didn't meet my eyes once. Not until Dad's phone buzzed. He checked the screen, muttered something about a late client call, and disappeared into his office. The sound of his voice faded behind the closed door. Then there was just the rain again. And her. She gathered the dishes, moving too quickly, like staying still would give something away. I'll do them, I said. It's fine. I said I'll do them. She froze. The words came out sharper than I meant. She looked at me, really looked, the calm mask cracking a little. You can't keep doing that, she said quietly. Doing what? Looking at me like you want me to say something I can't. I stepped closer. Then don't say it. Don't, she started, but her voice broke. You don't understand what this would do. I do. You don't. Her hand trembled as she set a plate in the sink. You're young. You think feelings fix things. They don't. I should have stopped there. But I didn't. Then why do you keep acting like you feel them? She turned, eyes flashing, hurt, anger, something else underneath. You think I want this? I think you stop pretending you don't. That landed hard. The silence that followed was thick, alive. I could hear her breathing, uneven, shallow. She backed up until she hit the counter, hands gripping the edge. You can't talk to me like that. Then tell me to stop. I am. Say it like you mean it. Her lips parted, no words, just air. The rain hit harder against the glass. You don't know what I've given up, she whispered finally. You don't know how long it's been since someone even saw me. Her voice cracked on that last word. That was the real truth, the one she'd been hiding under all the calm. I moved closer. She didn't move away. Her eyes glistened, the faintest shake in her chin. You need to leave before he comes back. But she didn't step aside. Her hand lifted, almost unconsciously, and brushed against my shirt, a touch so light it could have been accidental. It wasn't. Please, she said. Don't make me say it. I didn't know what she meant, or maybe I did and didn't want to hear it. From the other room came the muffled sound of Dad's voice again, laughter, the scrape of his chair. Her hand dropped. Her eyes didn't. And then he called her name. She blinked, once, hard, then whispered, "Go. Now." But I didn't move. Not until the office door handle turned. The office door didn't open right away. It clicked, then paused, long enough for both of us to realize how close we still were. She stepped back so fast her heel hit the cabinet. I turned toward the sink, grabbed a towel, pretending to dry a plate that wasn't even wet. Dad came out a second later, his voice easy. "Everything okay out here?" "Fine," she said, her back to him. He smiled, oblivious. "Good. Because I just got an email, they want me back in Seattle for a few days. Flight leaves at 7 in the morning." She froze, the towel slipping from her hands. "Tomorrow?" "Yeah." He poured himself another drink. "You'll hold down the fort?" Her eyes flicked to me for half a second. "Of course." He went on talking, about meetings, deadlines, logistics, and all I could think about was how her hand had just been on my chest 5 seconds before he walked in. That night, I didn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I heard the faint sound of the back door creak open. I followed, barefoot, quiet, until I found her sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, smoking a cigarette. "I didn't know you smoked," I said. "I don't," she said without looking up. "Not anymore." The porch light cast a soft halo around her face. She looked younger somehow, or maybe just more honest. "I shouldn't have let that happen," she said finally. "You didn't let anything happen." She gave a dry laugh. "Don't make it sound noble." "It's not." I sat beside her, close enough that our knees almost touched. "You don't have to keep pretending I'm a kid." "I'm not pretending." "You are." She turned to me then, eyes sharp. "You have no idea what you're walking into. You think this is about what we want. It's not. It's about what we destroy." Before I could answer, her phone buzzed on the step between us. A single notification. She didn't move. I did. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. "Dad. Message preview, you left your tablet unlocked. We need to talk about what I saw." Her cigarette slipped from her fingers, hit the wood, and died out. For a second, she didn't breathe. Neither did I. She picked up the phone, reread the message, her voice barely there. "He saw." "I don't know." "He was in his office," she whispered, shaking her head. "Oh God." "He must have." She stopped. Looked at me. Her eyes were wild now, terrified in a way I'd never seen. "He's not just angry when he's hurt." "You don't understand." "What do you mean?" She stood abruptly, blanket falling, voice low but urgent. "You need to pack your things. If he saw even one message, I didn't text you anything. Did you delete them?" I swallowed. "I don't know." She stared at me, like she was seeing someone she couldn't protect. "You should have never stayed here." The phone buzzed again, another message from him. "Dad, coming downstairs. Don't try to explain." She turned toward the door, then back to me, whispering so quietly it was almost nothing. "If he asks, say it was me." And before I could stop her, she was gone inside. By the time I stepped back inside, the house didn't feel like the same place. The air was thick, almost humming with what was about to happen. Dad stood in the hallway, tablet in hand. His expression wasn't angry, it was worse. Cold. Controlled. She was standing at the end of the hall, barefoot, arms crossed tight against herself. "I didn't mean for you to find that," she said quietly. He turned the screen toward me. A photo. Nothing explicit, just her reflection in the kitchen window, me behind her, blurred, too close. An accident. But not one you could explain. "Care to tell me what I'm looking at?" he asked. His tone was calm, precise, the kind that came before a storm. "It's not what you think," she said. He ignored her. I asked him. I opened my mouth, but she cut in fast. It was me. I crossed the line. Dad's eyes flicked between us. "You expect me to believe whatever you want," she said, voice trembling now. "But he's done nothing wrong." "Don't lie for me," I said. "Stop," she hissed. "Please. Just let it end here." But it was already too late. Dad dropped the tablet on the counter with a thud. "You think I'm stupid? I've seen the way he looks at you." The words hit hard, not because they were wrong, but because they were true. She took a small step forward, her voice softening. "You were gone. You left us both in this house like, us," he said sharply. "There is no us." The silence that followed was unbearable. She looked at him, then at me, and for the first time, I saw the truth of it all written on her face, the exhaustion, the guilt, the tenderness she'd been trying to bury. I could have stayed quiet. Let her take the blame. Instead, I said, "It's my fault." Her head snapped toward me. "Don't. It is." I didn't know how to stop looking at her. Dad stared at me, jaw tight, eyes glassy with disbelief. Then he laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You're just like me." She flinched. "Don't say that." "Why not? You chose me once. Now he's just the younger version." Her face went pale. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then she whispered, "You never saw me." "Not once." "That's the difference." Something in him cracked. He looked at her like he wanted to answer but couldn't find the words. She turned to me. "Go. I'm not leaving you here with him." "I'll be fine," she said, though her voice shook. "You did nothing wrong, but if you stay, you will." I hesitated, 1 second, 2, then she touched my face, just her fingertips, like it might be the last time. "Don't be afraid," she said again, softer than before. I left before Dad said another word. When I reached the porch, the rain had stopped. The street was empty, slick with reflected light. Behind me, through the window, I saw her silhouette, still, fragile, facing the man she'd chosen once and couldn't unchoose now. I wanted to turn back. Instead, I kept walking, until the house was just another dark shape in the rain. And even then, I could still hear her voice, "Don't be afraid," echoing like a promise neither of us could keep. A week passed before I went back for my things. The house looked smaller in daylight, like a version of itself that didn't remember what had happened inside it. The porch steps creaked the same way, the wind chime still rattled, but everything felt hollow. She opened the door before I could knock. No makeup. Hair tied up. She looked tired, but not broken, more like someone who'd stopped pretending to be okay. "Your father's not here," she said. "He left for another trip." I nodded. "He told me to come get my stuff." She stepped aside. I went past her, down the hall, into the room I'd been staying in. Everything was still there, the half-zipped suitcase, the hoodie she'd folded neatly on the chair. She'd washed it. When I came back out, she was standing by the kitchen window, staring at the rain starting again. "Did he say anything?" she asked. "Not really. Just that he needed time." She nodded slowly. "He'll probably stay gone longer this time." We stood in silence. I could hear the clock again, the same heartbeat rhythm as that first morning. "I shouldn't have," she started, but stopped herself. "No. I won't say that. I don't regret seeing you." My throat tightened. "You didn't do anything wrong." "Maybe not. But I did something real. That's harder to live with." I stepped closer. "Are you okay?" She smiled faintly. "I'm learning to be." For a long time, neither of us moved. The rain got heavier, blurring the glass until we could only see shapes outside. "You leaving town?" she asked. "Yeah. Got a place near the coast. Gonna try to finish school again." "That's good." Her eyes softened. "You should live a life that doesn't circle back here." "I don't know if I can." "You can," she said, almost like she needed to believe it for both of us. I turned toward the door, suitcase handle in my hand. But something made me stop. "I keep thinking about what you said," I told her. "That it's not about what we want, it's about what we destroy." She met my eyes. "And? I think sometimes love still happens, even when it's not supposed to." Her eyes glistened. "Then the trick is learning when to stop holding on to it." For a moment, the air between us felt like that night again, quiet, charged, full of everything we never said. Then she reached out, brushed a stray thread off my sleeve, and whispered, "Goodbye, sweetheart." The word sweetheart nearly undid me. I wanted to say something, anything, but nothing came out. So I nodded, turned the handle, and stepped back into the rain. Halfway down the street, I looked back. The porch light flicked on. Her silhouette stood in the doorway, still, small, watching. And just for a second, I thought I saw her smile. Not the guarded one. A real one. Maybe that was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? More slow burn romance, emotional age gap tension, or something entirely different?